Hello, I'm Anthony. I'm going to have a chat today about the trauma of recording audio. I've got two different challenges when recording audio. One of them is right here. Here's my current mic position, and it's recently changed. Up until now, pretty much every video I've made on this channel has been using a boom, drag the boom across before I start recording. At the moment, the camera is right below my face. I've got a pop shield about 4 inches, 8 centimeters, something like that, away from the microphone, and I've just got a much stronger, healthier signal with a lower noise floor. Now, the reason why I've made that change is because I've recently discovered, for pretty much the past 2.5 years, all the vocals that I've recorded, both on my YouTube channel and with my wife Pauline singing my songs, have basically been wrong. With the wisdom of hindsight, I look back with absolute incredulity that I haven't done any of this stuff before, but this is basically a red flag to anybody who's recording vocals. Don't take anything for granted. What I discovered during the remixing of a song that I'm working on at the moment called The Dream, I'm going to share some of that story today. Basically the vocals were awful. So where we start this story is with old lead Voc 1. What I'm going to do is zoom in so far that we're basically just listening to silence. I've pulled back the event on these recorded audio parts so that we can listen to pure silence, and I'm just going to solo the old lead Voc channel. I'm also going to head into my mixer and make sure that I've disabled every single plugin on anything to do with vocals. Don't want any sends. These are completely dry, bypassing the EQs, so we're just listening to the pure signal. I've got a couple of instances of insight. I'll just pull up one for now. So this is the old lead vocal line. And once that's running, as you can see, we've got a short-term noise value of minus 69 dB. If I turn the volume right up on this track, that's the problem that I identified that I had. This is shortly before Pauline takes a breath to start singing. Okay, so this is pure silence. She's basically holding a breath just before she inhales. Once I'd recorded that, I also recorded some harmony lines for it, and when I came back to listen to them all, I processed them, I discovered that without applying some sort of noise processing on the track, they were just too loud. The problem with stuff like RX8, the isotope product, they are great at removing noise, but they also throw away other stuff. The frequencies that are being reduced are mixed in with the vocal performance, and you're going to lose some of that beautiful high-end shimmer and air that occupies the same frequency range as the noise. Well, I mean, obviously noise is all of the frequencies, but there's no way that you can take noise out of a signal without having some impact on the original recording. So this was really disappointing to me. I thought, what on earth am I doing wrong? Let's fast forward now to the latest recording. So this is called new lead Voc. This is the latest vocal recording. And the first thing I'm going to do is just play the track. And you can see that we've got a short term worse than the minus 69 I had on my noisy track. And yet, despite the fact that there's a slight click because of the cycle markers not being absolutely perfect, if I shut up and we listen to these two tracks side by side, it's absolutely apparent, without any shadow of a doubt, that the old lead vocal is much louder than the new lead Voc. So I've got two mysteries here. One, what did I do to make the new lead vocal much quieter? And secondly, why is it giving me a false report on Insight? Insight doesn't do false reports. That is an absolute statement of fact. But it's not what's represented in my ears, so I need to find out what the difference between those two things is. And just as a spoiler alert, so that you're not as disappointed as I was at the last episode of Lost, I haven't fully answered the reason why we've got this discrepancy. I found what the cause is, but I don't know what the reason is behind the cause. Oh dear me, I tangled myself up in knots there, didn't I? What I'm basically going to do is put a low cut filter on each of these tracks. So this is at 100 Hertz, way out of anything that Pauline's voice is doing. Pauline has a very high register voice. There is nothing going on at 100 Hertz that we need to be remotely concerned about. And so I've put this low cut on both tracks, and now I'll press play again. And that is the real story, that the old recorded version is twice as noisy, twice as loud, because there's basically a 6 dB difference between those two tracks, as the new recorded version. You can hear it, it's absolutely apparent. I've got my output here at 0 dB. If I turn the rest of the song on, it would be painfully loud. So what's going on with these tracks that requires there to be a low cut applied? And when I take it off, as you can see, all of this is when I put the spectrum analyzer on, it was absolutely apparent what was going on. In the new, actually much quieter version, we've got this big spike in an area that I just don't care about. So the low cut is totally fine. I would love to know what it is. So what's the technical difference between these two recordings? Well, the first one was with the microphone on the old boom, about 20 to 30 centimeters away from Pauline's mouth. In addition, this was the pop guard that used to be on the microphone. You get these things quite commonly. I think this might have come with the AT2020. I can't exactly remember, but basically you hook that onto the microphone itself. In conversation with my son, who was a music technology graduate, that is the wrong place to have a pop shield. The pop shield should be as close as possible to the singer's mouth and as far away as possible from the microphone. So we replaced the pop shield with a standard pop shield, the kind of thing that in recording studios you see the singers right up against, and now that I know it, it makes complete sense to me. That allows you to diffuse the explosion as far away from the microphone as possible and give all of that energy time to dissipate. The physics is so obvious now that I've been made aware of this, it completely stands to reason. The other thing that I did that had a dramatic effect on the quality of the signal was to bring the vocals much closer to the microphone. Pauline's now stood less than half the distance away that she used to be. We've gone down from 20 to 30 centimeters to about 8, and therefore I'm able to reduce the input level. So the input level on my Focusrite is now at 12 o'clock. Basically, I'm trying to follow the 12 o'clock rule, get all of the settings on my audio interface as close to 0 or parity or the middle position as possible. Nothing hot. On the old recording, this lead voc, because she was stood so much further away from the microphone, I was basically having to crank the input gain to maybe 10 past, somewhere between 10 past and quarter past on the audio interface to get anything like a decent signal. That's where the noises come from. So it completely stands to reason. If you stand further away from the microphone, you've got to turn the input level up higher. You baby step your way to the point where you haven't even noticed how bad it is, until one day it's so bad that it draws your attention to it, and then suddenly that's all you can hear. So all I could hear in this vocal recording was the hiss. It was made particularly bad when we came on to the end of the song, where there was a harmony line. So we had these multi-part harmony lines that I had Pauline sing, and when you add all of these tracks together, it was just an absolute wash of noise. So what we have now is an audio interface with its input level at 12 o'clock. The microphone, I'm sat here quite a long way away from the microphone just for logistical reasons, because I need to be able to see the keyboard, I need to be able to operate functionally. But if a singer, like when Pauline is singing my songs, as long as she can see over the top of the pop shield to read the lyrics off the monitor, which is now right next to the vocal guideline, showing her the pitch of all of the notes that she needs to sing. Her eyes don't need to move. Her face doesn't need to move away from the microphone. She's pointing in the perfect direction, the perfect distance away. The pop shield is telling her where to stand, and that is very close to the microphone, much closer than I previously thought. And I just hadn't done the internet research. I just hadn't done my due diligence. How far away is a vocalist supposed to stand from the microphone? Well, we are basically using a hand width. That's our rule now. So she stands a hand's width away from the microphone, and we get a great performance. Let me just solo this harmony sub together with the lead vocal, and I'll pull the volume down to something reasonably sensible. And this is what we've got now. Sort of, you're listening for noise versus performance.
Once upon a time, there
Obviously I've cut out the large silencers in between the harmony rests, but you're also hearing that during the performance it's just deliciously quiet. I could extend all of these events out so that we could listen to all of the silence. You know what, just for giggles, I'll do it. It's just great, absolutely quiet. That's 12 o'clock. So don't get carried away thinking that you can keep on cranking your input level up infinitely and get away with it, because you can't. So coming out of this, for the first time, I've been able to define a set of acceptance criteria that must be passed in order for us to do any vocal recording. And basically, I'm looking for a signal ideally at -75. -70 to 75 is the grey zone where it's, depending on the ambient noise outside. I live fairly close to a main road. There's nothing I can do about it. But basically, I've got this instance of Insight on my control room. I've also got a couple of plugins, as you can see. Here's the low cut that I've now added to the control room permanently. I don't have it on when I'm talking because my voice is deeper than Pauline's, but for vocal performances, I will engage that and cut that low hum, that stuff that we absolutely don't want. I'll just basically pull it out of the signal at source. We've also got a Neve emulation over here. And as you can see, I've got both the input and the output just slightly boosted because I'm further away from the microphone than ideally I should be. When Pauline's doing the vocal performance, I pull back each of these knobs by 1 notch. So if I do that now, I'll get a little bit quieter. Not to worry. I'll turn the low cut on and then we'll have a look at Insight. And we're looking for anything better than -70. I'll now be quiet. Hear that car going past. There's nothing I can do about it. It's a busy road. So we basically have to sit here and wait for the traffic to disappear. But eventually that will get down to about -75. Give it one more chance. Dum, 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 dum. Somebody listening to dance music in their car as they drive past. Get my vocal levels back to a decent sort of performance. And I can now talk to you comfortably without having to shout. Wisdom is so hard to come by. Hope you enjoyed this episode and found it useful. If you did, please hit the like button. I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.